17 to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Messina.
Here.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Here.
Alderman Sizmarsky. Alderman E. Wesley.
Here.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Woods.
Here.
Mayor Police.
Here, I declare a quorum present. Please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. First, I need a motion to approve the City Council minutes of October 19, 2017.
Second.
Do we have any corrections, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do any citizens wish to be heard on matters not listed on the agenda? Okay, we don't have any there. I do have one written communique from the High Point Condominium Association. They want to thank the city and the Department of Public Works. They had the request to, there was an issue with their alley. It was beautifully repaired. The lumpy asphalt has been removed and replaced. Beautiful, well-done concrete. Thank you for the prompt attention. It's right off a division there. It's behind Marino's and stuff. Okay, under Mayor's report, we will start with the proclamation for the Eagle Scout. Andrew, if you could meet me at the podium. Eagle Scout Andrew Martin Welmers. Whereas the Boy Scouts of America is a vital force in the development of our youth through its many programs which encourage the ability of its members to do things for themselves and especially for others. Whereas one of the major objectives in Scouting program is to develop citizenship through community involvement, and in addition to working for citizenship merit badges, Scouts are encouraged to participate in community service projects, and whereas Andrew Martin Welmers is a member of the Boy Scouts of America and has not only proven himself to be an outstanding member, but has attained the highest honor bestowed on a Scout, the Eagle Scout Award. And whereas the Eagle Scout Award is a distinction that will follow him throughout life and will be a beacon to others of leadership quality and commitment this young man has shown. Now therefore, I, Mayor Annunziata Police, recognize Andrew Martin Welmers as worthy of this highest honor and encourage him to continue in his commitment to excellence. And before I ask Andrew, to speak, Chief has a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. In the police department, we take pride in residents that show good citizenship and live up to the ideals of an Eagle Scout. So on behalf of the Wooddale Police Department, I have the Certificate of Achievement for you. And the final line says, "We take pride in recognizing you for this outstanding achievement, and on behalf of the men and women of the Wooddale Police Department, our heartfelt congratulations and best wishes for a future of achievement and all that you strive for." Congratulations.
Just to let everyone know, you are the 71st or 72nd Eagle Scout. Do you remember? I know it's either 71 or 72. We'd like you, if you'd like to tell us how you became an Eagle Scout, maybe talk about your project, which I know the council helped you out with.
My project was Free Little Pantries at 3 locations: the Bensonville Library, Wooddale Dog Park, and the Bensonville Library. All three were very successful. I've gotten several good compliments. They like them. I'll occasionally go by and see how they're doing. One of the Bensonville Library apparently is doing very well. Yeah. And both my parents have helped me tremendously earn this rank, and several of my siblings. My brother was here in 2010, getting his equal award. I'm very, very proud.
Hold on one second. Just so we remember, I know I've said this before, but only the top 2 or 3% of scouts actually make it to Eagle Scout, so it's quite an accomplishment. Should be very proud. And if the parents would like to take some photos, you guys- There you go. Oh, and just.
You want to join us?
Sure. Before you guys, just so everyone knows, I know I saw Yvonne over at the library, and she told me it's been a success ever since you put it in. So it's helping a lot of people.
Awesome. Good work.
Oh, I don't need this. Oh, okay. Okay.
We're, they would have, one of us would have had a coat right in our car. I'll go.
All right, I'd like to continue.
Yeah, they were.
We have a couple announcements. First of all, the city's vehicle sticker art contest. The city will host the 4th annual contest to design the 2018-2019 vehicle sticker. It's in the city newsletter. The deadline is March 15th to turn it in. And let's see, the theme this time is your favorite weekend in Wooddale. Students are encouraged to draw their favorite Wooddale activity. Examples include reading at the library, playing at the park, or attending Prairie Fest. And more information on the website. It's also in the city newsletter. Also, next Wednesday, November 8th, at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Wooddale Junior High in the auditorium will be the Shape of Wooddale, where all residents could ask all the taxing bodies any questions that you may have. And also, Saturday, November 11th is Veterans Day breakfast for all veterans and their spouses, children, and widows or widowers are welcome. That's from Saturday, November 11th, 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. at Salt Creek Golf Club, 701 Thorndale Avenue, sponsored by Itasca Bank, Salt Creek, and the Wooddale Park District. And the 8:30 to 10:30, and then there will be a memorial to follow, providing the weather's not downpouring or something, at the memorial on Irving Park. And that concludes my, one more, I'm sorry. I forgot the big poster. So we received something from Metra. On behalf of Metra, I'd like to thank you for ongoing support of our public safety efforts. The Metra Safety Poster and Essay Contest is a key initiative in our campaign to increase our children's awareness and understanding of how to stay safe near trains and railroad tracks that crisscross northeastern Illinois. They're currently soliciting entries for Metra's 2017-2018 Safety Poster and Essay Contest. This year's theme is Eyes Up, Devices Down, Look, Listen, and Live. The deadline for entries is Wednesday, January 31st, and a copy of these posters, I believe, were sent to the schools. You don't need this, right, Shirley? I'll give it back to Wendy. Or you need it? Here, I gave you the letter. Now, Mr. Murmas, that concludes my report, manager's report.
Thank you. I have a couple key dates for the residents at home in addition to the ones you mentioned. First, last yard waste pickup will be the last week in November. The last brush collection is scheduled for Tuesday, November 28th. Annual tree lighting celebration, Saturday, December 2nd, from 2:30 to 5 at the former SBT Bank adjacent to City Hall. Additionally, the city is collecting Toys for Tots now through Monday, December 4th. Drop boxes are located at City Hall and the library. And the Wooddale Police Department is also coordinating a Thanksgiving Adopt-A-Family program. The last day to sign up to sponsor a family is tomorrow, but forms have been available at the PD, and we have been advertising for that. That concludes my report.
Thank you. We have no items on the consent agenda. We'll go to committee chairman reports, planning and zoning, Alderman Woods.
I have one report, Mayor. A resolution adopting a contract with HR Green, Inc. for temporary community development staffing. That is my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions? Alderman Roy Wesley, yes.
I have a couple questions here.
Go ahead.
I was looking at these fees for building inspecting and planning review, $80 per hour. Isn't our building director certified to do building planning reviews?
Mr. Murmas, you want to handle that, please?
Well, I know that we're down quite a few employees in the building department, 4 employees to be exact, so the burden on staff down there would just be overwhelming without the additional help right now.
Go ahead, you have a follow-up, Alderman Wesley? Go ahead.
It's in corresponding with that. Could you tell me the person that was doing planning review before?
Well, we had an employee that was doing that before, hence that employee is no longer here, hence bringing on somebody in the interim basis to do that work.
Okay.
Follow-up, go ahead.
I do have a couple other questions on these fees here. We have a plumbing inspector here for $80 per inspection. What are we paying now?
Mr. Murmas.
We have a separate contract for plumbing inspectors that we already do, as well as electrical inspectors. That's listed in there in case we needed them to fill in and do that, but we separately contract for that. I don't know the exact price we do, but we've never done that in-house.
Never done what in-house?
Go ahead, Mr. Murmas.
We have separate plumbing inspectors and a separate electrical inspector. They're individual contractors.
Okay, so.
Go ahead, follow-up.
Are we gonna use it?
Currently, we're
Mr.
using our current contractors.
Okay. Are we gonna
Go ahead,
get,
follow-up.
yeah, we're gonna get an itemized bill on these hours of each one? How much plan review? I know there's a lot going out in the building department to the engineers. Is our engineering stuff gonna go to HR Green then, too?
Mr. Murmas.
Plan reviews would go to HR Green, but you'll certainly get a detailed invoice. All their invoices are very detailed.
So.
Go ahead, follow-up.
The engineer that we have now that's doing our reviews outside is not gonna be doing that, correct?
Mr.
And
Murmas.
that's not necessarily true. We have stormwater reviews, which another firm handles.
It just seems
Go
like,
ahead.
it just seems like an awful lot of money, $32,000, an estimate cost. And you have here, 40 hours a month for, you have all these other things that they're gonna be here. You got the building inspector, you got the building permit coordinator. Give me an example of what would be plan review of performance at HR Green in the McHenry office. What would be going there that we don't have here with these two people here making $14,080 and another one at $13,522 for the monthly cost?
Well, to save
Go ahead, Mr.
time,
Merman.
to save time, if we don't have them in the office on any given day, if there's electronic plans, then they would be able to review those remotely in a different office to actually save money, not waste money.
So,
Go ahead, follow, something else?
so when you're saying 40 hours a week, they might not be here 40 hours a week?
Mr. Murmas.
As you can see, the contract's quite extensive with a lot of different employees mentioned in there. And as you know, we're down a certain amount of employees, so it's in flux right now, as it states in the memo. And I know you stated that 32,000 was a lot of money, but in the memo, it also kind of compares what we were paying in personnel in comparison to the 32,000. So it's not actually a true $32,000 expense.
Alderman Messina?
Right, just to add to that, I did the math. I mean, when you look at what we're saving in benefits and total comp package, it makes sense. I would ask, though, is there an audit process? Is somebody on the back end gonna audit these hours to make sure that, no offense, they're delivering what we're paying for?
Mr. Murmas.
Yeah, there will be, I'll be looking at it, Mr. Cage will be looking at it, and I want to add that a majority of this is temporary because we're advertising for these positions, so this is not a long-term solution. The positions have been advertised as of earlier this week, so as I said, everything is kind of in flux right now, so we'll kind of monitor it as we go along and adjust accordingly.
Do you have follow-up, Alderman Messina?
One more.
One more? Go ahead, Alderman Roy Wesley.
Could you give me a list of how much? I'm looking at these other towns. I'm looking at Addison. I'm looking at Villa Park. I'm looking at Elk Grove, and all these buildings being done. And I'd like to see how much plan review is actually being done. I mean, I don't know how you could give me that information, but Elk Groves, they're tearing down buildings left and right. Addison's turning down, Bensonville's doing stuff. I don't see it in Wooddale.
Mr. Murmas.
We do have plan review numbers. I'm not sure if that data set's included in the monthly report. I think it might be, I don't know, but if it's not, we have data set numbers on that, so.
Okay, we'll get that in the report. And we did pass 3 buildings that are being torn down right now, just in case we didn't remember.
Look in Elk Grove, how many they're going.
You also asked
We
a
can't
question about it.
we can't compare to a community that's 5 times the size, but for what we got going on, I
You
think we're
also
pretty
asked
good.
about spec buildings.
Alderman Sismarski, please.
No, I'm just saying,
Do you want to be recognized? Okay, thank you. All right,
spec buildings.
we have a motion, we have a second. Roll call.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes,
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
No,
of course.
Alderman Woods?
Yes,
And that passes.
that's the end of my report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Public health and safety.
No
Alderman
report, Mayor.
Sorrentino, thank you. Public works, Alderman Sismarski.
I have 3, Mayor. I have approval for partial payment request number 1 to Misfits Construction for the signpost installation project in the not-to-exceed amount of $24,960. Is my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Alderman Jacob.
On this, I noticed that it said no retainage held. I mean, I'm just kind of curious why we didn't hold anything back to make sure the signs were properly installed. I mean, were put in the right depth, et cetera.
Are you going to take this? Otherwise, I was going to call Mr. Bond. Mr. Bond.
Yeah, for the installation, the sign's not like a job where somebody comes out and pours concrete and you have to wait and make sure everything's good. They're good. If they're done and Matt's got staff who's going to verify that they're done, that's they're not going to get paid till it's completed. You complete it properly with the right number and so forth. In other words, you're not approving the payment of it, you're approving the contract for it.
Okay, you have a follow-up? Go ahead, Alderman Jacob.
Well, the only thing I was saying is things could still go wrong. I mean, if they're not putting it the right depth, the pole's in the correct depth, I mean, there still could be issues that come up down the road. So I just want to make sure that we're covered for that.
All right, Mr. Bond, go
Yeah,
ahead.
we are, because one, we're gonna make sure that they're installed properly at the time, before they get paid, you'll get approval. And secondly, if something were to happen, that wouldn't be something you normally hold back a retainage. There's gonna be, if there's some problem that was done incorrectly, it's in violation of the agreement, and we've got recourse in that regard. So it's just that, the nature of the contract isn't the type that usually lends itself to retainage. You know, they're dropping something, installing it, and that's it.
Do you have a follow-up? Alderman Messina.
Actually, a question and comment to Matt York.
Go ahead.
So first off, we've gotten a lot of kudos on the signs, so thank you guys for bringing that. Just the one question we had, and I know you guys are working diligently, but picking up the old signs, is there a specific method to how Misfits or us is picking them up?
Mr. York. Oh, did Mr. Murmas?
I can, this one's an easy one. They're taking them down very carefully, obviously, and a future committee item, I believe December 14th, the council had requested that we discuss what we're gonna do with the old signs. So they're very carefully taking them down. I actually watched them take down one. They take it down with some equipment, put it in the back of the truck, good condition, and then you guys get to decide what we do with them December 14th.
Do you have a follow-up, Alderman Messina? All right. Roll call on that?
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
And that passes.
Second, we got a resolution seeking to approve a contract between the City of Wooddale and H.R. Green for the construction management for the new northeast, northwest corner of Wooddale and Irving Park Road. Project in the not to exceed amount of $170,000, or $170,967.15. That is my motion.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Questions? Alderman Catalano, a second. Questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano.
Hold on.
Yes.
Sorry.
Is everything okay, Gene? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Shirley.
All
Roll
right.
call.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Abstain.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Abstain.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
And that passes.
Third, I've got a resolution seeking to approve a contract between the City of Wooddale and Copenhagen Construction for the northeast, northwest corner of Wooddale and Irving Park Road construction. The not to exceed amount of $1,362,306.50. That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions? Alderman Eugene Wesley, go ahead.
Mayor, I have a couple of questions. I don't know if it should be done out here or in exec session. This was a company that we had problem with through the town and other projects. You know, Edgewood, we had a problem with the pond issue. I understand it's the lowest bid, and I'm sure Mr. Bond's going to tell me we gotta accept the lowest bid. So what leverage do we have on this to make sure it's done the right way? Or is the state taking the full bulk of this?
Mr. Bond.
No, the city, first of all, with respect to the other, the city had resolved some concerns that were raised with respect to that, and those have been addressed with this contractor and subcontractor that was retained. And with respect to this, there are certain restrictions by law and under these types of projects with respect to the lowest and its lowest responsible bidder. The law defines what constitutes a responsible bidder. And there is nothing that would suggest, both in our history as well as a check of their references, that would disqualify them as a responsible bidder. So the city has an obligation to do that with approval. Now, with respect to the contract is going to protect the city, as it always has, and we've been very fortunate. While we've had issues with things before, the city has always had certain contractual protections that would provide it the ability to make sure that the job gets done, and if it's not done to the city's satisfaction, they're not paid until it is done. And we've been very successful at that without resorting to, like other towns have to sometimes, without resorting to the litigation. We've often, if there's an issue, we've got bonds that are posted, or we've typically been able to resolve it with the contractor, and we have the ultimate leverage, and that is the do-re-mi. We don't pay, you don't approve it until it's done to the satisfaction of the city. And it may delay it somewhat before the city signs off on it, but until the city signs off on it, payment is not made in full. And this is the same contractual provision.
Okay, you have a follow-up? Go ahead, Alderman.
Yeah, I have a follow-up. So, since this is a state, some of the money is coming out of state funding, because it was for the grant, the intersection.
About 500,000 of the
Okay.
project comes
So-
out of, as grant money, yes.
So my concern, does the state have a final decision on if they don't finish on a timely manner, or do we have a right to go after the company that they didn't make the deadline, or do we have to send them on requests from the state, and the state could say, no, we denying it because it's our project? What leverage do we have as a city, knowing that we putting out, what we putting out, 800,000?
Correct. And that also includes all the landscaping. in both
I
corners,
totally
just so we
understand that, Mayor, but what
Yeah, no,
leverage do we have?
Mr. Bond, go ahead, that's a.
Yeah, and it's a good question. Basically, it's our project, it's our contract, we have the contractual right to do it. There's federal funds involved, it's administered through the Illinois Department of Transportation, but ultimately, if it's not done to the city's satisfaction, then the contractor is not going to get paid until it does, and it's under our control. It's not, we don't defer it to the state.
Okay. Alderman Roy Wesley, I think you had your hand up, or questions answered? Anyone, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
No.
Okay. Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
No.
Alderman R. Wesley?
No.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one question?
Go ahead, Alderman Wesley.
Oh, so this, forget, since this pass, I'll talk to
Okay.
Pat offline.
All right, that passes.
That's the end of my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Finance and Administration,
Hi, one report,
Alderman
Mayor.
Messina.
Yep, one report, Mayor. A resolution seeking to approve an agreement between the City of Wooddale and North American Midway Entertainment for Prairie Fest Carnival operations for the years 2018 through 2020. That is my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions? Alderman Peter Jacob.
A couple comments and questions on this.
Go ahead.
I'm actually a little surprised that we're bringing this to council. I mean, Mayor, you've been on the committee, I've been on the committee. We've had vendors here. We've had carnival vendors here that were here one year, and we basically said we never want them here again. We've had that with food vendors.
We
'cause
do have
had-
an out, so just,
Okay,
if
well-
you were worried about that, I know.
Well,
that.
what is out? I mean, we're signing a 3-year
That's-
contract. I
Go
guess
ahead,
I'd like
finish
to
your
hear what
question.
kind of out there is.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I think that you were leading to, do we have an out, so,
Well, I guess
go ahead.
I would be a no unless we had something where, once the fest is done, we could evaluate, was it a success? Were people happy with it? If not, we'd like, within 30 or 60 days, we could say we're not, continuing this contract.
Mr. Bond.
And we do, you pay, and actually, there's no compensation technically, it's, they're offering those services, and there's a piece of the gate is what the city yields from the contract, but if they didn't perform and put on the festival to the city's satisfaction and provide the carnival rides and so forth, that's it, they're in violation of the agreement we had with them, and that terminates our legal obligations. So all we're doing is locking them in for a 3-year period, but we're not obligated for that 3-year period. Again, there's no monies that are being committed on the part of the city. We're simply locking in a particular vendors. So if you decide you want to change that somebody else takes those dates that we've already selected, and we don't have somebody who can do it, or a qualified amusement company, this way we lock them in so that they're available for our use, and if they don't perform, they don't come back.
And that's the thing, we'll have the same weekend where before fifth weekend and there's no fifth weekend and we had all kinds of issues. Follow-up question, go ahead, Alderman Jacob.
Okay, well, I mean, you're saying if we have exactly what kind of problem? You're saying we have an out if we have an issue, but in the past, we've had issues where the residents complained that they weren't happy with the rides. Is that legally an out for us?
Go ahead, Mr. Bond.
Yes, we're contracting for a festival, and the festival's got certain attractions. There's some reference as to exactly what the package, if you will, includes. But to the extent that they don't perform by providing that at the level of the city's expectations, then we're not obligated to go forward with year 2 or 3. If they do it for the first 2 years, or first year, and the second year we find out we're not satisfied, we don't go on to year 3. So we have at any time prior to the first one, we don't have any leverage. We're committing to that, but after that, we can have an out if they don't perform.
Go ahead, follow up, Alderman
Okay,
Jacob.
but again, you're saying perform. If we have residents complain to the elected officials afterwards saying we're not happy with the rides, we didn't like the rides, they didn't have enough children's rides, I mean, they still performed, they still had the rides that the committee picked, so how is that
Well, I think
against the performance?
on the rides, I think we're picking the rides, right, Ms. Heckler? I know they show us a list and it's either 5 or 6 younger ones and older ones. Can you answer that? or
Sure.
no?
So, in the past, they've provided a list, other carnivals, 15 to 16 rides, a variety of small children, middle-aged children, and then something, for the teenagers and older children. So this is very similar, similar ride schedules that we've gotten in the past. And, obviously they may get new rides between now and the end of 2020, but for right now, their rides, that list that I've seen is very similar to what we've seen in the past, so.
Mr. Bond had one comment, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the only thing that I would suggest is, if the mover and the seconder agree, is to make it subject to final attorney review and approval, because there was one, and I've talked to Ms. Heckler relative to that. Again, we're not paying any money, so there's a provision in there that if they have to go, that we don't provide our support, they're going to, and they've agreed to it, but they could bring an action, and we would be, if they prevail, we'd have to pay their attorney's fees. There's not a reciprocal provision. Generally, there is. The reason it's not in there is because we're not paying them any money. In other words, so if we fail to give them a location, they can't make that money, that would be considered a breach of the agreement. So I would just say, if it's acceptable to the movement and seconder, to make it subject to attorney review and approval. And we've already discussed it, and I believe Ms. Heckler has discussed it with North American Midway Entertainment, and they have accepted it. But the version you had was prior to that discussion. So.
Alderman Messina was you first, and Alderman Woods was second. Yes? on
Yeah,
that?
I would agree.
Alderman Woods?
Yeah.
Did you have another question, Alderman Jacob? Alderman Messina, you were first, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to make it clear and make sure, because I think Peter's kind of hit it home twice now. The criteria, because I don't want to end up on Judge Judy, the criteria is not delivery of service, and they have recourse. It's, if we're not happy, we have the option to bow out and find somebody else. Is that correct?
Mr. Bond.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Roy Wesley, you were next.
What happens if this council or the next council decides they don't want to have a Prairie Fest? Is there a clause in there?
Mr. Bond.
You would simply give them notice that you're no longer pursuing a Prairie Fest, and this is subject, so as is every contract, to appropriating the money for it. And that means the space is, there's some intangible dollars and so forth. So, yeah, you would always have that right, you or a future council.
The next question.
Go ahead, follow.
The next question is, you're saying, we were talking about out of contracts. Is there a fee for getting out?
Mr. Bond.
There is not.
Alderman Sismarski?
Yeah, I guess my question is to legal as to last year's Prairie Fest, when the state shut down the one ride. How does that include into whether or not residents say that they weren't satisfied with rides, along with Alderman Jacobs, rebutting Alderman Jacobs' statement? They're not happy because the one ride got taken out. Where does that fall into the category of legality as to they took out 2 other rides plus that ride? We thought they were keeping one in. They took out 3 altogether. So where does that fall into the city's legality as far as, are we satisfied for this contract?
Hence the change in the amusement.
Right.
Oh, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, what it would amount to is, was that a material change? A material is a legal term, and that is, was it significant? In other words, if you had a kiddie ride, having gone to some of these with some kids that live with me, if it's kiddie ride and it's got like a barrel for, to sit in as opposed to a teacup, that's not material. If you remove that that ride completely and don't substitute with something, that would be material. So it's a matter of degrees. And if it was a material deficiency in that regard, then the city would have no obligation to move forward with years 2 and 3.
I guess
Follow-up, go ahead,
I guess
Alderman
my
Smith.
follow-up would be, we have quite a few residents that do buy ride passes for the whole event, for the whole weekend. And, I know they're.
You're talking about the mega passes.
The mega pass, and those rides are now gone. Does that fall into this also?
Mr. Bond.
Well-
Taking rides out or performance?
Well, was it safety? I mean, depends if
That's what
it's
I'm asking. I
safety
just
or.
wanna make sure that
Mr.
we're
Bond.
not, they don't hold us responsible for that.
No, we are not, because they're not, the entire transaction, it's basically the receipts, and we're getting a commission for the receipts that are generated as a result of it. But that would not allow, just like if you had a major storm event, and we often take out insurance for those things, and somebody buys that and they say, well, I'm on vacation that week, I can't use my mega pass. The city has no obligation or liability for that.
Right, and I remember a few years ago, we had rain overnight. There was a ride, and the big kids definitely loved it, and as it went up and was spinning, I believe we noticed, well, the owner did, because he did safety inspections. Some of the 2x4s or big blocks, 4x8s, whatever they were underneath those, were sinking about 6 inches into the ground, so he came to us, he said, this ride's history, look at that, we're not moving. So,
That's all.
Alderman Jacob, you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
I guess part of my whole concern here is I know we've had carnivals in the past that we weren't happy with, and we said we'd never have them back. I just don't want to have a carnival that, is here and we don't like them, and then less and less people come year 2 and less, even less come in year 3 because of bad rides or something. So I want to make sure we definitely have an out, and once, signing a 3-year contract, we've never had this vendor here. I know we checked references, but people aren't going to give you references that are bad references. They're going to tell you
Correct.
towns that are happy with them, so.
And we do have an out, correct, Mr. Bond? Okay. All right. Another follow-up, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
just one
Alderman Messina.
Just one last thing, sorry. I know the answer, but just to make everybody comfortable. References were checked?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Eckler spoke. Go ahead, Ms. Eckler.
I can't remember a couple of the other towns I called, but one in particular, Libertyville, has had them for a number of years. They actually had one of our previous contractors in the past and then had switched to North American Midway. And they said that one of the biggest differences they noticed about North American Midway is that it's not family-owned and it's run like a business. And they're out there to make money, sell tickets, keep rides going, have good games, everyone have a good experience. Not saying the others aren't, but they said that was the biggest change they noticed when North American Midway started doing their festivals.
Mr. Bond.
And just so it's clear, as Ms. Heckler indicated, they're motivated because they're getting, they're doing the ticket sales, and if they have bad rides, people aren't buying tickets, they're not making as much money. So they are, financially motivated to be able to put in the best carnival that they can, within the space list restrictions, because it generates them money from which we get a percentage of the ticket rides and concessions.
Alderman Woods?
I just wanted to throw a couple comments in there. So one, to Alderman Jacobs' point, we've had multiple people, some we've not been happy with, some that we have been happy with. So the issue there is it's always a crapshoot because it seems like we're always changing people in and out. It's also harder for planning. This company, as we checked them out, and I made a couple calls about them also, and they checked out, is that we lock them in and they have more incentive to do a good job, besides the fact that they run it like a business and it's not a family operation. Not that family businesses are bad, but secondly is they want the repeat business. They want to be locked in. Our issue's always been, if we're a week late pulling the trigger, we can't get the guy we had, and then we're stuck getting the guy that we wind up throwing off because he's the second or third choice. So while I know that there's some apprehension about locking in for 3 years, Mr. Bond has looked over the contract, and there's more than enough outs for us without any cost in the contract. And to make sure I checked it too.
Our attorney's assistant.
Yeah, right.
Got one more.
Just got one
One
more.
more question? Okay. Alderman Sismarski.
Yeah, Ms. Heckler's confident. Alderman Eugene Wesley might be able to answer this. He ran Prairie Fest. We have had Astro Entertainment before.
No, that's North American.
Now it's didn't you not just say North American bought out Astro? Because it's on here as name Astro Amusement LLC.
And we didn't have Astro.
I'm pretty sure we did one
No.
year.
No.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes.
Under my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Under other business, airport noise report, Alderman Jacob.
No report, Mayor.
Check that.
Oh, actually, there is, Alderman Wesley has been receiving some letters residents are getting from CDA. We do have the attorney looking into it, so we can give those residents a response. All right, just came up tonight. I'm sorry, Peter, we should have probably told you about it. All right. Stormwater Commission, thank you. Approval of listed bills, Alderman Messina.
One report, Mayor. November 2nd, 2017, listed bills in the amount of $305,000, $714.05.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Questions? Yes, Alderman Eugene Wesley. Go ahead.
I have two
Go ahead.
questions.
You got a page number?
Page 74, vendor number 618250.
What's the name?
It was the HR Green.
CH Aesthetic.
Yeah, CH status upgrade
CH Aesthetic upgrade.
for $3,500. What was that for?
Mr. Murmas.
That was the CIP item for City Hall aesthetic improvements. They're looking at some slight landscaping modifications to go with the other aesthetic improvements, like the new sign, the new electronic sign, and some stuff like that.
Okay. Follow up, Alderman Wesley, go ahead.
The other one is M&M Lock on page 75 for Building 30 key fob system installed.
That's treatment plant, right, Mr. York?
Yes,
Or one of the buildings? Go ahead, you want to respond? Just for the camera, so we,
No,
building 30.
I wasn't done with the question.
Oh, Alderman Wesley, go ahead,
So my
sorry.
question that I raised on that bill is, why wasn't it done during the construction of that building? And why was that not, or is that in the loan that we have out on a treatment plant? Or is this beyond that loan?
Go ahead, Mr. York.
There were several things that were not completed as part of the construction of the treatment plant, reconstruction of the treatment plant. One of those things was there was no electronic fobs as part of the project. and now we are finishing up those. So those are outside of the loan amount.
So,
Go ahead, follow up.
so was that in this year's budget? I just didn't remember seeing it. because
Mr.
I did
York.
pull up
Yeah,
the
we had
budget.
upgrades for the wastewater treatment plant as part of, there's a couple line items in the CIP.
I just didn't see the fob. in
Go
it.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good then.
Alderman Roy Wesley, I think you had your hand up, or I saw you walked over to the chief, so I don't know, you might have got your answer already.
I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Somebody else?
Yep.
Alderman Messina.
Question on check 54 regarding the sandbags. I think that's to you, Matt. Don't we have a sandbag maker? And we're paying $250 for each, essentially?
Go ahead, Mr. York. I know the-
Yes, when we utilize sandbags and we buy them to replenish, yes, we do have a sandbag maker. We utilize that only in an emergency situation where we need to make sandbags. We can actually buy them cheaper than we can make them in-house. And plus, it's also very strenuous and high level of risk of having people twisting and bending and stuff to make sandbags. So take a lot of the risk out of it.
Do you have a follow-up? Any other questions? Go ahead.
Mayor, I just going through my list again. The other one is, page 67, the Honda generator that we bought for $99. I noticed that was Public Works. Did the Honda generator break? Is
Mr.
that why
York.
we bought a new one? Or
No,
what's
this
that for?
is a quiet generator that's lightweight. It's only about 45 pounds, so it can be carried from place to place. We used it over the weekend at the 390 opening. The chief has already requested it for next year's National Night Out to help him with his things. It's a smaller, quiet generator, easily used at many functions throughout town. So.
Okay, I thought we
Follow
had,
up?
I thought we had one of those.
This is.
Go ahead,
one-
Mr. York.
Yeah, this is one of the super quiet ones, so it's not as loud as the large 3000 that we built the cover for.
And
Go ahead.
the two items above it, learning systems. Learning system, one for $695 and one's for $300 for administration. Is that a learning course?
Mr.
that we're paying
Murmas, I
for?
think Mr. Murmas has this one.
SHRM is actually for some of our training seminars, like HR utilizes a training program, and those are costs for some of that, I believe. I don't know, Stacy, you want to elaborate?
Can't they use YouTube?
Ms.
Is it-
Eckler, can you elaborate, or?
I can answer that myself.
Sure, so it is a membership to SHRM, has, like Jeff mentioned, the certifications, also some training modules, opportunities, resources for HR.
Yep. Okay.
So
Go ahead, follow up.
both of them is for different divisions, or is that, you said it was a membership?
So one is a membership
Go
fee
ahead,
and the
Ms.
other is an LMS fee.
And how much is the membership? $695 or $300? It just doesn't say membership. right?
I believe it was the 300 one,
Okay. And who uses that? for
Go ahead,
training?
Ms. Eckler.
so I would use that.
You use that for training? Okay. I'm good.
Can I add to that?
Yes, Alderman Messina.
Having a lovely wife in HR, I can tell you it is the kind of the gold standard for HR. And it is great for risk assessment, not just human resource courses, and it's great for career development. So it's kind of a no-brainer. That's why I didn't even bother questioning it, because there is a ton of value that it brings, and it actually lessens a lot of the liability for us, because they listen to other municipalities, other corporations on what to do in certain situations as far as employee relations. There's thousands of classes that they could take at these conferences and learn. So that's,
I totally
Go ahead,
understand that.
Alderman Wesley.
I just want to know what it was.
Yeah.
I mean,
No problem, no problem.
Okay.
Questions are good.
Okay.
Alderman
not about
Messina.
that. Just one random question. Saw a lot of payments for the folks that are going to be participating on the tree lighting. Maybe I didn't notice it last year, but do we pay these people ahead of time?
In the past, we have, yes.
Okay. Before they deliver their services?
Mr. Murmas, you want to take that?
Yeah, I believe there's, for that event also, I think that's not dissimilar to when we do the Memorial Day Parade and we get things on the register for vendors like that, so.
So Mrs. Claus needs her gas money before she
ahead.
comes from the North Pole. So we gotta pay her ahead of time.
Yes, be careful, be careful with Mrs. Claus.
Yes, no, I don't care.
Mr. Wilson, go ahead. Be careful, the kids are watching when you talk about Santa Claus.
From the North Pole.
I understand, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Just to clarify, a lot of times we'll make sure that the checks are prepared, and then we'll hand a lot of them out that day.
Okay.
So we're not, feeding reindeer, things like that ahead of time, if people don't show up. But they're
Reindeer
prepared.
tune-ups.
You're right, yeah, they're prepared just for that day, and then if they don't show up, I believe there's probably a non-performance provision that we have in the agreement, so then we just don't give them the check, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Alderman Roy Wesley. Santa Claus also, or?
Mr.
something
York,
else? Mr. York, okay, it's for Public Works, go ahead.
what is USA Blue Book Flow Recorder pens for $147.27?
You got a page, do you know where it is, Mr. York, or you need a page number?
Page 68, the first one.
68, first one.
68.
Is this a special pen?
Hold on one second, let him find it.
I still don't see it. But- On page 4 of the bill. Mine's on a different set of numbers.
Brad, do you have it?
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, so we still have dial recorders at some of the stations, and they're the pins, and as the water flow fluctuates throughout time, you get a chart, so
Okay.
that's the little pin that
Okay.
connects to that.
Oh, for the recording
I'm
stuff.
thinking regular.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I guess you could hook one there if you want to, but it's not gonna work.
All right, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that concludes my report, Mayor.
And that passes, thank you. We have no executive session, no items to be referred. Need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes.